AP World History. Chapter 32, Societies at Crossroads. My task is to compare and contrast China and Japan. On to my thesis statement. During 1800 to 1918, the societies in China and Japan were similar because they both subjected to unequal treaties by Europeans, and women were prominent when they participated in wars with other societies. However, they differ because Japan reformed while the fall of the Qing dynasty in China occurred. For parts Persian, subjecting to unequal treaties is E for economic. Women's roles during wars is S for social. And Japan reforming while the Qing dynasty in China fell is P for political. Before we begin, a bit of context as to what was happening during the era. Chapter 32 occurred during Era 7. Era 7 is also known as the mid-modern era. During 1750 to 1914, it was an age of revolution, industry, and empire. During this time, the Ottoman Empire faced problems with Russia and Egypt, and they also suffered economically. Europe only kept the Ottoman Empire because of the balance of power. In the Russian Empire, Tsar Alexander II emancipated the serfs in 1861. They freed the serfs so that they could work in factories. The freedom of serfs led to industrialization and rebellions. In China, opium was very popular and there was limited trade. In Japan, the Tokugawa shogunate changed due to the Meiji Reform. Now that we have our background, let's get started. China and Japan both subjected to unequal treaties, which hurt them economically. In China, this was evident in the Treaty of Nanjing, which Britain forced China to accept after the Opium War in 1842. These treaties gave foreigners more power and privileges. These treaties also prevented the Qing dynasty from taxing the imports. This hurt China and their domestic industries economically. Unequal treaties was also evident in Japan in 1853. U.S. warships came to Tokyo Bay and demanded permission to establish trade. The Tokugawa shogun was intimidated by the foreign powers into signing the treaty. The U.S. was given similar privileges that Britain and Europe got in China. This prevented Japan from taxing the imports, which hurt them economically, much like China. Also, China and Japan both participated in wars. China's was known as the Opium War during 1839 to 1842. In this war, it was China against Europe. Japan's was the Russo-Japanese War from 1904 to 1905. In this war, it was Russia versus Japan. This counts as social because in both wars, women had a prominent role. In China, women were able to serve as warriors in the Opium War. In Japan, women were able to serve as nurses during the Russo-Japanese War. Moving on, China and Japan differed because Japan reformed while the Qing dynasty in China fell. In Japan, Meiji reformed in 1868, and they removed all privileges for samurais. In China, the Qing dynasty fell in 1912 due to illegal opium and limited trade. Lastly is syncretism. In Japan, during World War II, women's roles were very prominent, much like the Russo-Japanese War. They joined nurse corporations and armed forces, similar to the Russo-Japanese War. That's it for today. All the links I use will be in the down bar below. Thank you for watching.